This is the demographics lecture, and we're going to just talk about some key points and numbers that you're going to want to be familiar with. So, if you really think about it, you know, orange is the new black. Well, is 60 the new 40 or is 80 the new 60? We really can't go by something as clear as orange is the new black in this day and age, because we see a lot of differences between the number in what someone's age is and really how healthy they are, or how old or worn out or healthy their body is. We do also continue to see age discrimination in all different areas: um, workplace, auto insurance policies, health insurance policies, and definitely healthcare too. The categories that you see about older people are listed on the slide, but yes, they're discriminating as well. And when I talk about older adults, some people cringe, some people are like, oh, I'm a lot older than that. And so it's really hard to know, just based on their age, whether they feel old, whether they are old, and how healthy they actually are. So don't just assume that you've got a 101-year-old male, that 101-year-old is not active, in a wheelchair, or not healthy. So you might expect to see some of these things when you hear about older adults, that they're useless, we need to help them a lot. But you may not see that all the time. You might see people who are physically fit or being active and engaged in their community. You might see people who are extremely physically fit and active and engaged in their community. There's a lot of different people who participate in much more rigorous activities, and all of these individuals are over 80 years old on this slide. So it's important to consider that a number doesn't tell us exactly how healthy someone is, but it's also, as a whole, we need to think about our society and how older adults are definitely getting older. So in 2008, we had about 40 million people who were over the age of 65, and that was about 13% of the population. And in 2011, the first generation of baby boomers started to turn 65. That generation has an enormous amount of older adults in it, the most we've ever seen. And so the projections for the numbers of older adults is just really growing. By 2030, 72 million people will be over the age of 65, and that's almost 20% of the US population. What this means for you is that you are going to be caring for older adults. No matter where you work, no matter what you do, some of the people you take care of are going to be over the age of 65. Some of you will say, well, I'm going to work maternity, or I'm going to work in the NICU, or I'm going to do pediatrics. Well, I can tell you that every single one of those kids has a grandparent. And those grandparents will also be on your floor, and you might not be providing direct care to them, but you will be doing education. You will be providing mental and spiritual support, and you might end up caring for the one that faints or falls over or has a heart attack while they're on your unit. So make sure that you pay attention. This information is just as important as other information. We have seen that the life expectancy for adults has lengthened over time from 47.3 years in 1990 to age 75 in 2010. And if you look at across both sexes, the life expectancy is 78.9 years for white persons and 75.1 years for people who have black skin colors. And women typically live about 5 to 6 years longer, regardless of their race. So we know that you guys are going to care for older adults. We know the demand is high and it's going to continue to grow. We're going to see a lot of concern about staffing. We're going to see a much higher concern about staffing in long-term care settings. And so we want to pay attention to that. We want to try to improve care in all areas. And those of you who decide to go into long-term care environments, you'll have a challenge, but not one that's unsurmountable. Gerontological nurses will also play a very significant role in research, innovations, and provision of services to this group. We need this specialized knowledge to improve the health and quality of life. And so you're going to find that as your education continues, that you're going to see that gerontological nursing is in high need. So just consider congestive heart failure is one of the top reasons that people who are over 65 years of age are admitted to a hospital. And that's a heart condition, right? A cardiac disorder. The second highest reason for admission is a respiratory disorder, COPD for those 75 to 84 years, and pneumonia for those over 85. The most common procedures for these age groups, again, blood transfusions are the highest for both groups. And then for the younger of this group, 75 to 84, we're looking at cardiac catheterization. And then those older are looking at upper GI endoscopies. And that's because they've had some type of cardiac procedure. And now they're having side effects typically, which then result in the need for a blood transfusion. These two slides, it's really the top two I'm worried about. Think about why they come in. Think about what those top concerns are for hospitalization. And then how can we prevent them from needing to come in and requiring hospitalization. Healthy People is an initiative that is run by the government. It is a public health initiative that helps to set goals. They do this about every 10 years, and the next set has come out that sets for what we would like to see in 2020. So for older adults, there's goals for all ages and conditions, but for older adults, the goal that they selected was to improve the health, function, and quality of life of older adults. So they wanted to improve the healthcare workforce, and they wanted to make sure that older adults were up to date on clinical preventative services. I mentioned that in one of the other short lecture clips for this week. And then reduce the proportion of older adults who have moderate to severe functional limitations. So these are what drives our society, our public health force, to make changes on a community or public health basis. And it also impacts those who come to acute care and long-term care, because by improving these things, we can reduce the numbers of those who end up requiring additional services. So thinking about health and what that means, it of course is a combination of a lot of things, and it might be different for every single person. Consider what health means to you. Think about what health might mean to your grandparents, to your neighbors, peers, their grandparents. Just kind of consider what it might mean for older adults and how they can be healthy as you think about what's in your environment and who you interact when you are providing care.